I want to let you know in a work session setting that we do follow Robert's Rules of Order here, that there will be no participation from the audience except for the public comment at the end of the agenda, and that all speakers must recognize the chair before speaking. Okay, with that said, I will call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. First up is roll call of members. Mr. Lehman and Mr. Bunt are absent today. And one, the mayor had a wedding and Mr. Lehman had to work late. So with those two being only absent, everyone else is here. The approval of the agenda as written, are there any additions, subtractions, or edits to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Alger?
Aye.
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 Robertson?
Aye.
Surley?
Aye.
And Chairman aye. All right, presentations. First up is the Colonial Beach Public Schools.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, for allowing the school division to come before you tonight to present their budget for this school year, 2019-2020 school division's budget. I have provided you all with an updated presentation. It's about 15 slides, and I'll do my best. I see you all have what looks to be a live agenda. Potentially, maybe, not sure. However, I'll try to make this quick for you. So this budget was approved by the school board, and we're going to jump right into slide number 3. Okay, just want to give you all some highlights. No, back one more. Yes, ma'am. Just want to give you all some highlights first before we jump into the budget. First, starting off with Colonial Beach High School, they've really done a good job this year. Had a strong performance in the Northern Egg Tech Center, which we take part of and pay for out of our budget. We've had a high number of military and college recruiters coming to the school, talking with our students about life after high school. We've held several college informational nights for parents and for students to talk about FAFSA applications, letters they need to work on, scholarships, the whole nine. We've held a Veterans Day Assembly sponsored by our high school SCA. As you know, we have a high school baseball player, Mason Delane, who will be playing for VCU with full scholarship. We continue at the high school to recognize students for excellent work in the classroom and athletics. You have to be a combo student to be very successful in sports and academics, and we've done a really good job this year with that. Several of our athletes have received recognition as honorable mention, all district, all region teams. And recently we had a student by the name of Mary O'Sullivan. She doesn't know I'm saying her name out loud, but received a full scholarship to Randolph-Macon, which is a kudo for students. Nowadays it's really hard if you're not an athlete to get a full scholarship, and to receive a full academic scholarship is a blessing. That's what I would say to my kids if they received one, but is a sign of hard work by that particular student. At Colonial Beach Elementary School, best elementary school in the state, they have set a goal for their students to earn 7,000 positive office referrals. And that was, for the entire year. And at this particular point, when I got the data, received the data from Ms. Coates, they were at 8,000. So those students are working really hard to show drift of pride. And we reward those students with trips and tokens of appreciation, whether it be an assembly, a trip to stay in Skateland, several initiatives they've taken part in because of their great behavior and drift of pride in the school. The SEA students visited Mary Washington Health Center and read to the residents. My daughter happened to be one of those students, and she thoroughly enjoyed herself. Performing arts continues to shine with the recent musical Sally Sells Seashells, and so can you. That was a great hit. If you didn't see it, you missed a really good treat. I would encourage you to attend any of the musicals that are put on by our elementary school. They are really, really good. And also too, we've hosted several family nights with the goal of, once again, bringing in the community, engaging our parents, and discussing skill sets that help students perform and meet the expectations within the school division. At the high school, you'll see a list of these are colleges that have accepted our students. And we have students going to Bridgewater, Christopher Newport, Tech, Virginia State, Lincoln Tech, which happens to be a trade school, UMW, and several other community colleges in this area. And that's something you all should be proud of. I know that we have a smaller student population than most high schools, but our students always go out and they take advantage of the 2-year, 4-year, and trade school opportunities. And once again, that is something that as a council, as a community, we should all be proud of. So jumping into the budget. Just a little bit of commentary for you all. Once again, the budget has been adopted by the state. We built this budget based on projections that are tabulated by the state and by the Weldon Cooper Center. And when I have that information for you on the next slide, but we built this budget with a conservative number of 610. The composite index for this school division has changed this year from 0.3402 to fiscal year 20 to be 0.360, which would mean that we would receive less state funding per student. However, as our ADM continues to increase, that actually covers some of that particular gap. And then also too, the state budget also includes a compensation supplement for in the amount of 5% over the biennium for all SOQ funded positions. We have included in our budget a 3% increase for SOQ and non-SOQ positions for this upcoming school year. And we have the governor to thank for that, and the compensation supplement, and actually does help us out tremendously with that. Okay, next slide is just a 5-year enrollment projection based on the Weldon Cooper study. On this, we actually spoke with Weldon Cooper, which is a department on the University of Virginia's campus that assists the Department of Education with making enrollment projections for school divisions. And as you can see, they have what we would consider to be, I guess, aggressive projections for our school, but once again, we decided to remain conservative. Typically, when a superintendent is building a budget, they use projections, but you typically err on the side of caution, and you build your budget based on a very conservative number. And this year, we've chosen the number 610, which is still an increase from previous years, where we have used the ADM number of 575 and 585 most recently. Correct? This slide just simply shows the enrollment trend based on 5 years, and it is projected to go up, and that is something that the school division, the administrative team, the school board, myself, we're paying very close attention to, and we understand the need to make sure that this is something that we don't lose sight of. I know that the school division or the elementary school that was just built has a capacity, and we have to monitor that closely. Right now we are under capacity, and that's a good thing. But once again, the school division and the admin leadership team are making sure that we are monitoring the student enrollment. State revenue, we just laid it out for you. The state funds that we anticipate receiving is about $4,601,130, which is based once again on the ADM of 610, which I note on this slide to be an increase of about 25 students. And right now we're sitting at, as our ADM number, we're sitting at 628.86. So that would be considered a conservative ADM number. Any questions about that particular slide? No? Go. Okay. Here's just a revenue comparison over the last 3 years. You can see a slight increase in the state revenue, which we believe to be attributed to the increased state revenue. The increased ADM. And then the other funding sources remain conservative, not conservative, but consistent for the last 3 years. This is just simply a pie chart that demonstrates the revenue and what percentage of our budget it makes up. You can see that roughly about 59% is funded through the state, local is about 29%, and then we have other and food service and the federal dollar that comes in to support the school division. The next slide, you have the expenditures that we project for next school year, showing a slight increase in recent years to food service. That was really based on the increased reimbursements that we've seen the last 2 years, thanks to several food programs that we have on site, the after-school dinner program, the regular breakfast and lunch program, and then we also have a second chance breakfast that happens right after first block, where students take advantage of those meals, and we receive reimbursements for every student that eats a meal at that particular time, and those dollars add to the revenue source, and it was recommended last year by the auditors that we make adjustments to that particular number. And once again, that's a conservative projection there for us. The amount may be higher than that, which is the reason why we have to come back to you this year to make a request to reappropriate funds to that based on the increased reimbursements. And you have a letter speaking to that in front of you, and I'll speak on that in just a few. This is simply a comparison chart for the, I believe, revenue projections, or the expenditures for the school year for this budget. And you can see slight increases in the elementary instruction and secondary instruction with admin and health, which we believe to be consistent based on what we projected this year. This shows you the proposed expenditures, and I just want to make note that the elementary instruction and secondary instruction, a large percentage of that is the personnel costs for those teachers, for teachers and staff. So that makes up a large portion of our budget. So the considerations that we've made with increased state funding, I know that you all are paying attention to that number and seeing it go up. What we plan to do is to increase the funding in special education for purchase services. That's tied to mandates. The driver salary is tied to IEPs and mandates for students. Here you see me talk about the increased communication with the administration budget. We have a goal this year to make sure that we are telling our story as a school division. And one of the plans we would like to have is to work with teachers on writing stories for our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and also to submitting stories to the paper. Just talking about the great things that are going on inside of our school division. And I'm a firm believer that if we don't tell our story, somebody else will, and we may not like it. So I would rather take ownership of that and work with the staff to make those things happen. And the rest is pretty much self-explanatory. The increased repairs and maintenance for transportation fleet. We've talked about transportation before. In my first 5 months here, we spent roughly about $22,000 to about $25,000 on repairing buses. And that's something we've paid attention to and managed right now. But we do have some legitimate concerns about the fleet. And then also you see planning for a 10% increase in healthcare. That is from communication with our healthcare broker. He provided us with a letter that said we needed to prepare. He has not provided us, the company has not provided us with the actual quote yet. We will not receive that until July 1st. Hopefully it comes back in lower than that. But I have spoken with other superintendents in the region, and they are pretty much experiencing a increased healthcare cost this year. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we don't have the same experience. Last year, We planned for that and it came in cheaper. This year I'm hoping for the same. And this is simply, the next slide is just a summary. For some reason it's out of whack, but this is the summary for the total expenditures for the budget. And as you can see, the request from the school division this year will be for level funding. And you can see that for the last 4 years, we have received the same amount. And the required number is 1.8 based on using the calc tool. And that's using the number 610. If the numbers come in higher than that, that could be, that could be adjusted, but for right now, using the number 610, the number is, the required amount is 1.8. Any questions about the budget presentation before I move into the reappropriation?
I'll open that for discussion first. We'll start with Steve, Jen.
I just would like to follow up on our meeting with John and Roller about the history of expenditures that we were asking for. I've got nothing since we.
Okay, so I put in your inbox the last 2 years of revenues and expenditures. That I remember I came in your office and put in.
I thought it was in your book. I know there was a number.
I think it's sitting in your
That was,
inbox, Steve.
That's my fault.
I met
Did we
with,
get it the way we asked for?
no, we got it, but we got the last, I had, met with Tim and Stan printed them all out, but they're like per year, you know what I mean, that whole year is a packet, and then this year's packet, and this year's packet, and, I also got the revenue and expenditure numbers for the last 4 years from the town side from, Lisa, and put them in an Excel spreadsheet and tracked them, and there were a couple trends to be aware of.
Follow up.
Yeah, we can. I followed up with Tim and Stan, and,
I know we spent 2.5 hours in the meeting, and I assumed we were going to follow up on that information was available.
well, I figured you'd want to look it over before we met again, but we can meet again on that, that's fine. And, basically, I think that's why it got adjusted from the 2 point. Remember, the number when we met with them was higher, and now it's down to flat 2.299.
I wouldn't say this because of that meeting. Just for clarification, in making a request for the additional amount of money, I felt, and speaking with Mr. Trigger, that the conversations about the funds were becoming mixed together. And what I wanted to do was to wrap up the budget discussion. I review what we had requested, wrap up the budget discussion, and then continue the discussion about any additional funds that we requested at a later date. I have 2 goals.
Well, I agree. I was looking to wrap up the
Yes, sir.
budget discussion before we went into
Yes, sir.
additional funds we're looking
Yes,
for, but
yes.
I had never gotten any of that information in the format that we asked for it in the meeting, which I assumed we would get.
So my door is always open.
So is mine.
Yes, sir. My door is always open for
You
you
were
to come.
supposed to be getting that for us, Michelle.
Well, I do believe that Mr. Shelton and Mr. Trigger and Rob Michick had an opportunity to discuss that. And it may not be, what you would have wanted, but I think there was a conversation about that. And now what,
I
sir?
guess I was not invited to that meeting, is that correct?
It was
It
me
just is a
following
little-
up.
I mean, I spent 2.5 hours talking with you on this, and I got no follow-up at all, and we were expecting that. I'm just putting that on the record.
Yes, sir.
Any questions to Mr. Trump?
Sure, or about the budget.
No, I didn't.
I mean, just more, I'd like to point out one other item.
All
I
right.
just want to say, the issue that, just for public purposes, the issue that Robin and I had was that all we were looking at was budget projections based on prior year budgets, and we had no expenditure history. And what we asked for is expenditure history, as the town does there, so that we can look at our spending trends and so forth to, get more comfortable with the line items, and also to see certain adjustments, they adjusted ways there during the budget, which makes sense, because we did the same thing in the town budget. But the only way to truly look fully at a budget, a proposed budget, is to look at your history of expenditures, not your history of budgets. And that was the issue that Ms. Schick and I had, that we were requesting additional information on in a format that we could look at it the same way the town's doing there. That was my issue.
Okay, just to close out the discussion on that, these ended up pretty good. I wanted to the real revenue numbers for to track the last 4 years, and we looked at it, and then the end, I pursued that pretty diligently and got both the numbers from the town and from the school. But I continued to push for that. So, hopefully next year we will, or even if you can put them together in a spreadsheet. Part of it was logistical. Is that right, Stan, that the program that you're currently using doesn't export to an Excel spreadsheet, so you would have to physically put them into an Excel spreadsheet, and they're like 26 pages each year. So it's a pretty tedious process to look at that, but the trending was important to look at, and we switched to Edmunds. Hopefully the capability of the technology will be better to produce documents like that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's there, it's just that the details never made available.
All right, let's move to the next item, which is, this is a appropriation for your current fiscal year that you're in right now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have budget for the 2018-2019 school year was built on the number 585. Right now, I've stated we've made it to March the 30th, where the state finalizes the ADM number, and it is, as we stated earlier, 628.86, which allows us to project that we will receive the increased state revenue in the amount of $352,165. And the process has never been this way, where I believe that the school division came back to the town to have those funds reappropriated. But it is the expectation for us this year to come back and have those funds reappropriated to the budget in that amount. And so I anticipate, in talking with the school board chairman Trivett, that I'll have a resolution to them at our school board meeting on May the 8th, and we'll bring back to you the approved resolution seeking approval for these funds to be reappropriated, or not reappropriated, but appropriated to our budget for the 2018-2019 school year. And that's not local dollar, that is state revenue. And then also too, for the food service department, we are receiving more reimbursements than anticipated when the budget was built, and the same process will follow.
Both of those things were expected, though. This year, we knew that ADM number was going to come in higher. We knew the food service budget was going to come in higher. I'm surprised that your food service budget in your 2019-2020 proposal
I figured
is
you'd say that.
280.
I figured you'd say that,
It
and
should be at 400.
I want to tell you why. Being conservative, those dollars are based on reimbursements, and that means that we are consistently having a large number of kids eating breakfast, lunch, taking advantage of second chance breakfast, taking advantage of the after-school dinner program, and so we could put that number there, but I would prefer to be conservative and bring back to you if the funds and if the reimbursements are coming in as they are now this time next year, or following the same process. I just would prefer to do that. And I'm just honestly being conservative with that. I'd rather do that say it's gonna be 400,000, we spend like it's gonna be that, then it's not that. And, you know, that was the rationale.
Oh, and it's very common within school systems to do that.
A 40% conservative.
I can honestly tell you that there was one year that, Westmoreland County requested $2 million. So every
One year, but not
superintendent,
3 years in a row.
every superintendent that I've ever been around, and we've been in discussions for years with them, they are extremely conservative,
And that's simply what it is. I see your point.
everywhere.
You know, I'm not gonna say that, you know, Stan and I did not have the same conversation today. But I feel more confident about being conservative. And if the numbers are coming in like that, April, if there's an increased ADM number, I come back to you with the same process. I just would rather play it safe than spend as if we had that.
This is your purview, in my opinion.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a school board
Yes, ma'am.
decision to do this.
Yes, ma'am.
This
Mhm.
is an oversight when you see a reappropriation,
It's
Mhm.
that
appropriate.
is, well, it's an appropriation,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
of additional revenue.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
appropriation of additional revenue.
Mhm.
That is almost half of your budget
Mhm.
for that year.
Mhm.
Then you're not able to use that money to do things like salaries and wages. And we're talking about cafeteria.
Well,
What else
we,
is it? You're gonna buy $150,000 food?
no, we don't. We do spend a lot of money on food, and other expenditures that are with the cafeteria, but the cafeteria department is a standalone entity, and that's something that we can do within that department.
I know, I'm just saying, you don't budget the higher number, you can't budget for things
So-
that are expenditures.
So even at this point, we're lower than that. I think we're, what did you say, 229? And making this adjustment, we will not run into the position where we can't access those funds.
Right.
That's right.
So I have a question, I mean, is this, so on the school, on the food service, it's its own separate fund, so it's described as a reimbursement, so if it's on a reimbursement basis, then what the appropriation is being asked for is money that's received, that's already been received.
Yeah, so, yeah, we are,
Meaning that you guys have been reimbursed for expenditures and the reimbursement, almost like on a grant situation,
Yes.
correct?
yes, to that effect, we are,
Right,
Right.
so,
They got it back.
right, they
They're
got it
expecting.
back, right, but what, I mean, kind of, I'm all for being conservative.
Mhm.
When these funds, when you budget these funds, you have a revenue and expenditure and they match. So if you are, because if it's a reimbursement type of a situation, it's not the same as a fund that is dependent on that money coming in first.
right.
So you almost have to spend it in order to receive the
Mhm.
reimbursement.
Mhm.
So, you are then challenged with, and when you guys move over to Edmonds, you'll encounter this, is that you are authorized to spend that money. You don't have it in the revenue, right? So, in order to because otherwise you're gonna be going over that line on it,
Mhm.
even though, you know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, I do, I'm
So
listening.
that's why Ms. Schick is saying
I
that
understand.
it needs to be, because otherwise like I said, if it works on a reimbursement basis, yeah, if it works on a reimbursement basis, on a reimbursement basis, you are in essence then overspending on that line item. I understand that it's a different scenario, it's almost like a grant fund. So a lot of localities that establish their own grant funds, they make an estimate and they put that in there. Usually in the June timeframe is when they true it up and they say, hey, based on reimbursements, like what they filed for, then they true it up. But you get into that position of, I've got an expenditure, and it says that line item is 100,000, but I know that I can only spend 150, you know, you really need to build that into your system, otherwise your system's not gonna let you spend that 50.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost better to budget for the higher revenue, even if you don't budget for the higher expenditure. Right?
Right,
You
you
have the
could,
money available.
the way you control that is the known amount, you
Right.
distribute it amongst your expenditures, and then you have another expenditure line that is that 150.
Right,
You know
so
what I'm
this is
saying?
excess.
And that way, that 150 gets protected, where you know you, so it doesn't get inadvertently spent. But if you spend it according to the reimbursable, then you have it built into your budget. Otherwise, you're basically then, you're gonna get yourself in a situation, especially when you get into Edmonds, where you're gonna have to come for a reappropriation before you can even spend it. And an appropriation before you can spend it. So you really don't want to be in that kind of a position. And it is going to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is the purview of the school
Yes,
board.
ma'am.
This is just an observation, and
Okay.
as we observe these things, just trying to make, when you're not gonna have to come and ask for permission for something that we have looked at ahead of time, that we expect it's coming and all that stuff, and then you're expecting, I mean, this is 150% over what you budgeted, then you should budget for that next year, and it's pretty consistent for the last 3 years that it's been under budgeted by a fairly significant amount.
Like I said, I noticed that, but in my heart, I was thinking being conservative, because, you know, the kids can turn out and not eat. You know, they can not have.
Well,
any-
you're expecting
History
more
is-
kids.
Well, I am, but there's also, you have to look at the fact that the majority of that number comes from the afternoon feeding, which for us right now is slowly decreasing. So that was part of my rationale for being conservative. But I did note exactly what you're saying, that for 3 years it was going up, but to me it's presenting right now that we're not having the high numbers of students coming after school for the meal service or the meal program. So that's the reason why I was conservative.
Okay, and in the last year, and this 2018-2019 year, you've grown by 43 students over top of your projected ADM, but for next year, you're only projecting 610.
Yes, ma'am. Conservative
So
number.
if the school did not grow a student, it would be at 628 next year. Right, because you're at 628 right now.
Mhm.
So if no new students came
No
at
new
all.
students came, and no new students came, and no students left,
Right.
we would be at 628. But once again, the rationale is that you are conservative as you build your budget. And if you have the opportunity to make adjustments within your budget at a later date, once the ADM number is firm, then you do that.
Right.
And that's the rationale behind that too.
And the percentage of the local revenue match that is required by the state is based on the ADM number. So the higher the ADM
See.
number goes, the higher our state match requirement is.
So that's a question that we can explore. In the past, once we've received your local budget, we have not come back to you all for any additional funds, and I don't believe that would be necessary in this particular case with the way the budget is built. I do believe even if it was at 640, I think that we would have to look at the count sheet, but it's
They were
not,
close.
yeah, it would be more close. So I'm not believing that is going to, would occur, not at all. But, you know, you never know. But right now, I would not anticipate that.
My one last question is from this chart, if I hadn't seen this chart, is that
Which
it
one? I'm
says
sorry.
the
Which chart?
5-year enrollment projection.
Yes, ma'am.
in Cooper,
Uh-huh.
which I know is exorbitantly, that's being a very
It
high
is,
level.
it is, it is.
But it does say that in 2018, 2019, your senior class is 46 students, and that in 1920, it will be 35. Do you see a decrease in
Yes,
your senior class?
yes, we do. We do see a dip, in that senior class, and that's
That
anticipated.
particular grade
Yes,
has
ma'am.
been smaller
Yes,
through?
it has.
Because
Yeah.
then it will jump back up into
It
the
does.
40s again.
That's right, that's right. When we paid attention to that, I was a little nervous, when I saw their projections, and so what we typically do is go with an average number, for the lower grade levels and move the grade levels up.
Mhm.
And what our typical enrollment would be in pre-K kindergarten, we use that, and that's how we measure our number versus what the projected number is. And then you take those two numbers and you come up with a conservative projection, which is what we've done for you today.
I'm fine with the 610 number. I think the school fund is too low, but that's.
Yes, ma'am.
It is one of the most difficult things for schools to project. When I sat on the committee, for, what was it that we just went through, like, 10 years ago? I don't know. When the state comes in and school improvement, yeah, that's what it was, school improvement. And when I sat with these 6 ladies that were chosen for Colonial Beach, 2 were from William and Mary, and 2 came from St. Joseph, and the other one there. And one of the things that was noted because of the area in which we live, that we have a lot of families that would jump from Charles County to King George County to Colonial Beach, then to Westmoreland County, then probably back to Colonial Beach, then maybe to King George again. And it's very difficult to keep track of those people when this happens. And it's still something that goes on.
But it really improves during, when the economy's bad. That happens when the economy's bad. That was during the recession. And I think if you look at those numbers, they do vary in the good economy.
They do, but I can tell you just this week alone, Colonial Beach and King George threw back 3 different kids.
Yeah, the population is very transient.
It is very true.
You know, we have kids who come here for 2 weeks and they're gone. We had one parent, she came here and it became a conversation between us and King George because we tried to enroll in both locations and seek services. And I mean, that's just something that we have to grapple with. It's really because of 301. You know, the same issue King George had. It's really because 301 parents and, you know, they think there's a better opportunity here, or they're trying to get away from something and come here, and they just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all year long. You can look at our early numbers in October and November. We were sitting at a very high number, probably close to 645, 650 as an ADM number, and we ended the year right now based on what the state expects at 628. That in itself would describe a very transient population.
It's still 43 higher than this, right?
It's still 43 higher, but you have to attribute that to the new school too. I mean, it's something that.
43 students is an entire grade level. Because
Yes, ma'am.
in 1 year.
I
I went to school, my graduating class was 37. So, but I just know in the last 5 years, it's trended, you have 100, you have over 100 more students in the last 5 years. And so this projection from Weldon and Hoover seems a little bit crazy, but it's 100 more students in 5 more years.
aggressive. And if you look at their earlier numbers and other calc sheets, there was 1 year, 4 years ago, they had it at 700.
Yeah, it goes to 700.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just saying that to show that, you know, Weldon Cooper, they do a really good job at giving you the numbers, but, you know, we all have the responsibility to try to build the best budget that we can using the ADM number and the trend, if you will, but also being conservative. And that's just a practice that I've picked up from the other superintendents that I've worked with in other localities, and they all try to be extremely conservative, you know, and that's just a standard practice.
Okay, so this money here, just so that in case there's any confusion out there, there is money left over from last year from the budget last year. That's about $350,000, $360,000. Now, this is different.
Yes,
So I just want to make sure that they understand this is not
Clarity.
the same.
Thank you.
So there's 2017, 2018 outstanding funds to be, to be discussed after the budget discussion is over. This is from our current year, from the ADM projection, there's 43 kids that I've been talking about a bunch of times, where they keep saying they 585 and it's actually 623. So that's from this. And next year, if you have that 610 and you get 655, then we'll do it again.
You will.
Okay. So are there any other questions?
So the 610 number is the amount that you put in, the state is going to,
In the calc sheet, yes, ma'am.
right, in the calc sheet, because originally they had you at 630.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
It is. It is. but they,
But
Our
you,
own
so
too.
you're allowed to, so they,
Yes.
they let you guys do that?
they
Okay.
do, and they
And-
encourage you to do that,
Okay.
they do.
Yeah, and, so then on so this has to do with money from the state that you guys are gonna receive. Have they told you when you're gonna receive this?
We should begin receiving that here in the next few weeks, I would believe.
Are they
That's-
gonna give it in a lump sum, or are they
No,
gonna
no,
spread
no,
it
no,
out?
I think in the last payments that they make toward the end of the year is when you would receive those funds.
Okay, just so remember that, the monies, okay, so then they're gonna give this to you by June 30th?
That's what we expect. There hasn't been any holdups. But if they communicate anything like that, we'll be more than happy to share that with you all immediately.
No, I'm just thinking that, if this money doesn't come in to you all by 6:30, then, well, even if it doesn't come, I mean, is this money tagged specifically for instruction? I mean, that it's coming in so late?
It's not the fact that it's coming in so late. It's tied to our increased ADM number. And what I understand to be is that when that ADM number is firm, which it is firm now, then you'll see the increased amount come into your monthly EDI report, and that's what we're anticipating.
Okay.
And we haven't received any other communication from the state regarding it. That's just something that I called a person from the budget office when I was working for another issue, and that's what they informed me.
So this 352, the state gave you that number?
No, what we have to do is go against the original calc sheet that was used to develop the budget, use the calc sheet that was used to develop this budget, and then make the corrections. See what the state revenue was for the number 585, see what the state revenue number was, what it is for the current ADM number, and then subtract those two numbers, and you'll arrive at what we have projected. And that's, we ran that over with people from the budget office, and they also too said that was the correct way of doing that.
Okay.
The state wouldn't give it to you anyway because you created your budget, not the state.
I'm sorry, ma'am, say that again?
The state wouldn't give them the difference of those two numbers because they've used,
No, but it
Their
it
own
is
number
state
to
money,
pay
no,
down
but
that.
it is, they're saying that this is increased state revenue, so I would think that the state would have communicated to the localities that this is the extra amount based from the additional
the
ADM.
state doesn't know what number they used in their ADM to.
No, the
create
state
their
does know, because actually they initially, they have to.
So, but you weren't getting one, you had gotten increased money monthly, kind of varying a little bit already, right?
Yes, we have,
So
and
it's
that
just
should
by the
be
end,
the,
it will be a sum of this amount.
so at the end, it's gonna be based on the March 30 number. When you start receiving your installments from the state, you get whatever your ADM number is on September 30th, okay?
Oh, okay.
You start receiving funding for that, and then you go from September 30th to March 30th, receiving that same amount.
Right.
On March 30th, when they collect your ADM, at that particular point, then you start receiving the additional
Got it.
monthly state revenue. And so, I mean, it's not an easy, it's a complicated process to figure out, but once again, this is what's done.
Okay.
So the ADM money, the ADM that was struck at March 31st, that carries over into July, August, and September, which is the new
Until
fiscal year.
September 30th, and then you get a new number. And
Right,
that's,
so fiscal 20's been budgeted 610. The ADM as of March 31st was 628.
28.
Right, so, they will be receiving that.
Slightly more than the 610 already.
More than
for
610,
August
right.
and September.
Right,
And legally,
Yeah.
before the school division, I say I, but
Yeah.
before the school division can use the funds, we have to appropriate those dollars
Right.
into the budget, get it approved, so that we can then take advantage of that dollar amount.
No, it's better to tackle this now this way than the 2017-2018 issue that we're tackling almost a year after that.
So that also brings up a good point, which is something we've talked about, is the school division having a capital improvement fund balance, where those dollars, at the end of the school year, are placed into a school improvement account, not school improvement, capital improvement fund balance, for infrastructural needs, instructional needs, things that arise that typically are large dollar amounts that could be used toward those purposes. That's just something that I know that I've said individually to every council member. I know that I've spoken to Mr. Robertson about that as well. I just want to make sure that that's a conversation that can potentially be had.
We talked about that, but I never asked the question, who holds the capital improvement fund? Does the town hold it so that it can carry over year to year since you guys have to zero out?
Yeah, I think, in my
That
mind,
would make sense to me.
in my mind, that would be the case.
Right.
And what we would do for transparency's sake is come to you when we have requesting those dollar amounts to address these capital needs. Sounds like a win-win for everybody, and it also too allows us to be strategic about the end of year dollar,
Right.
to be honest. So,
Yeah, no, I think,
So that CIP still has to be a part of our CIP for the town and it's
Right.
required. So it's, because the
he's just
schools-
asking for his own budget line.
No, I
item
understand,
of
but it's
it.
still part of the total CIP for the town, which is part of the comprehensive plan, we're a requirement. So we can't break it out separately.
I don't know, is it like that?
The CIP requirement is that we put the school in as a subset.
Right, okay, well, so there's two different things. The capital improvement plan is not a budget.
Right.
It's a plan,
Mhm.
okay? And then through the annual budget process, that plan gets funded,
Right.
okay? So that's why we need that capital improvement plan to be fed into the town and the school in the December, January timeframe so that we can build it into. And so basically, then, when the budget is approved, you approve a capital improvement plan, and it includes that 1 year, so it all kind of gets married together. And then
Right, so what he's asking for is a particular budget line item, this is the.
No, so with regard to the school unspent monies, so if the town council if this is gonna be a recurring, circumstance, year in and year out, you can establish a memorandum of understanding or policy.
Like we do with the sale of
you
property.
do a resolution.
Well,
I like
I've
the
seen that.
memorandum of understanding.
yeah, it's more of a policy, it's more of a financial policy, and you can establish that, so rather than having to go back and forth year in and year out, you establish a policy, and then that determines what happens to those unspent monies.
Yeah,
And
because
it
that
could
makes-
bring, so if the town and the school board has an MOU and just establishes a policy, then it can stay within the school's operating fund, but it becomes a restricted or committed fund balance. You do, but, only if there's an agreement between the two entities.
I mean, right now,
You
the
can do
funds
that.
the 10% that we set aside from the sale of the town property, how does that do that?
That goes into the town's capital project
But it's
fund.
identified specifically for school CIP,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I mean, I see this kind of falling into
I
that
agree.
same thing.
Mhm.
Instead
Well,
of getting a whole bunch of different things going on, if we can go through and revisit that and make sure that we've got it set up to the point that we can designate these funds and stuff, and they're identified and carried forward as a growing balance or what have you, that's set aside for CIP for the school, just like the sale of property funds, then,
but that
and
can
they
be done
do the
as well.
CIP list every year.
Right, that can be done as well. But there are some
Right.
localities that have agreements that addresses
Or maybe
the
we have
unspent
to
monies.
into it as well.
And that's where I pulled that from, Ms. Gomez is correct.
Yeah, there are some that, and I actually have an example of one.
We have to,
Good.
here we go.
Somebody gonna write up the MOU, so we have.
If Ms. Gomez has an opportunity where she wants to sit down with Mr. Shopie and I and go over something, or if you all would like to have your your attorney draft something and we can share with our school board attorney, I think it's worth the conversation. I'm just putting it out there.
After the budget?
After the budget, I think that's a great conversation.
But again, I do think that we need to have one fund coming together for that, with any sources of revenue that we elect to put toward that, whether it's sale of property or whether it's their savings annually. It goes toward one fund, and we don't have a bunch of different understandings and funds out there. I think one pot is what it is.
One pot for the school division is what you're getting at, right? Oh,
Yeah, I agree
may
with that,
agree.
there should be multiple.
Yeah, I agree.
capital.
We're going to have more than one way to fund it.
Right,
The pub district formula is arrival, I'll give it, and make sure that we get the 10% from the real estate sale as well as the annual stuff that will come in and kind of formulate what that looks like.
yeah, we can, I would wait for this till after budget is over.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of been the understanding, we're gonna wait till the budget is over and then have all of this.
Good. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No,
for the conversation.
And if, like, Joe came up with what had to be done here, and that was an unplanned expense.
Mhm.
I know that we've got I'm assuming there's still antiquated heat pumps in high school.
Yes, yes.
And, because that's over 30 years old, and I know they've been at least repaired twice that I know of
Yes.
in a short amount of time. And that would certainly be a fund that we could get there.
Replacing those things should go ahead and be on the plan though, if you know you're 30 years old and you know that there's a potential for having problems.
Day-to-day maintenance is supposed to be.
That doesn't sound like a
Well,
surprise.
it is.
It's not a
but-
CIP.
It's well, to Miss Robertson's point, that is a concern.
Sometimes it's not.
And when you say a surprise, I don't believe it's ever a surprise, but you have to have the funds there to make those things happen. And sometimes you are faced with making a difficult decision about what to fix and what not to fix.
Well, right
Yeah, I
now, you're
understand what you're saying.
increasing your repair and maintenance, by almost $200,000 in your next year budget. So I'm assuming some of those types of things, like,
Some,
would go
some,
in that money,
some.
I would assume.
I,
The capital improvement fund is not really for maintenance items, it is for making improvements to your capital assets.
Which, and to that point is what I believe Ms. Robinson was getting at, it's not just fixing, but replacing. Which, the units, not the $5,000 here, $2,000 there, but the overall replacement of the HVAC system,
Yeah.
one in which I presented to you, in the presentation I had a few months back about what we would use the $350,000 toward.
And replacements towards items in excess of
Right.
$50,000 would be on a capital improvement plan. And you would expect that those things are gonna happen in the next 5 years, even if you don't know when they're gonna happen. You don't have to prioritize your capital improvement plan to say that the very
True.
first
Uh-huh.
item is a big.
That's true.
improvement.
That's true.
So you should put all of the items that you
True.
think you basically.
I agree.
need.
I agree with that.
schools are a different entity though. I hate to, I know I continually say that.
Buildings in the same building as well.
What do you mean by
Building-
by that?
Because when you don't plan for a heat pump to go out when it's only 2 years old. You don't plan,
That's what we're.
okay,
Yeah.
Honeywell's been the contractor since I walked in the door over here.
But you just told me these units are 30 years old, these are identified
So
items.
what I
I mean, we
think
deal
is,
with the same issues as them.
You do, and I got that. But a lot of times in school systems, things go that you don't expect them to go when they go.
Wouldn't that be maintenance fund?
Yeah.
It goes when it doesn't go,
It
that's the way
is.
it's, that's what it goes. That's what
Okay.
we're talking about with the CIP.
Right.
But if it's
if it's a high dollar
high
amount,
dollar
then
item,
it's gonna end up being a capital number.
Rob said,
If it's a high dollar amount, then probably what's to replace it.
True. I mean, all the points are well taken. So I think that's worth a conversation about what that would look like. And, I'm happy that, Quinn has, said some
You
things
have
to
a lot
support.
of items that are identified already.
I do, and I would appreciate your support in making sure those
Yeah.
things get fixed.
Rob, just as an example, and I think is a pretty good example for this, the town got hit with the $46,000 of asbestos,
The
mold
mold
removal in
Right,
this
that's a
building,
really good example.
which was a total surprise. Okay, we couldn't go into the capital improvement plan and pay.
That's right.
We had to beg, borrow, and steal from every account that we had in the town when we were over in a lot of places and we're already on a budget that was tight as a drum head. to find those funds. And we cut a lot of things out, and I think the point that we're making is that, you know, we set up these budgets, and you have a history of providing savings annually in the budget, which is good. But the idea is that we set up these budgets so that, realizing that we may have to go back and jockey some stuff if there's a surprise that comes up. You can't plan for everyone, but you also can't count on a CIP to cover
The
it.
capital improvement fund is not an emergency
That's
go-to.
right.
That's
So-
not a, oh,
If you have the funds in the budget, like the 300, there was something happened right now, couldn't it be reappropriated this year? That's how you could do it before you even got into the CIP.
right,
So you would
Yes,
hope,
exactly.
Yeah.
right.
you would
Right.
hope that the
So-
situation presents itself to be that easy. I mean, and I'm just being honest, I'm not gonna say that anybody's right or anybody's wrong. I would truly hope that it would be that easy to where it could work out that way, but there are some situations where I've seen it not work out that way, okay? And we've had to come to the town and whoever the administration was to have a conversation. However, at this particular point, you know, we may be a little bit ahead of ourselves on what that would look like and what the expectation would be. I'm just happy about the fact that we can have a conversation about making something like that happen. I think collectively, we can come together to talk about the details and put together a plan that is advantageous for the school division. Any emergencies potentially, maybe not sure, but at least we can have a conversation about it, and I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of, you know, the schedule that you gave us with the buses and all this.
We do have some immediate needs and potentially some of the increased revenue that we receive could go towards some of that, you know, depending upon how it plays out.
Okay, so this is gonna get voted on by your school board, and then you would like us to
The
hold
school board has
public
already
hearing?
approved it,
Oh,
and so,
they have?
oh, I'm sorry, take that back, no. I thought you were talking about the budget, the resolution,
Yeah.
yes, will be voted on by the school board May 8th. I will come back to you on the 15th with the resolution.
We advertising this for our regular meeting ahead of the school board approval? I don't know if we can do that.
No, you don't have, I'm not, this is informational. I'm not
Oh.
asking you to advertise. I'm saying that, I'm making sure that you're well aware that this is going to take place. I'm gonna go to my school board on May the 8th, inform them of that.
Okay,
And we're talking about the appropriation of funds, not the budget.
right,
Okay, so yes, go to the school board on May the 8th.
so,
And
but we'll have to hold a public hearing to approve.
no, I don't believe, no, not this.
No?
No, ma'am, no.
Okay, so
No.
that will just be a regular line?
Yes, yes,
Got it,
yes, ma'am.
okay. Are there any other questions? All right, that.
No, you're fine.
I think
This is
we're
fine.
on good track though, and it's good to, you know, I'm glad we can have that conversation. Work session is perfect time for it.
Yes, and I also too, I appreciate the communication. I know sometimes that everybody can't see eye to eye on everything. However, what's most important to me is the opportunity to sit down and talk and, you know, come to some type of resolution and agreement to move forward. And so I truly appreciate that opportunity with you all, and hopefully we can continue along this path. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, next up is unfinished business. Seeing none right now. Okay. It is new business. We will start, these aren't actual public hearings, this is just a work session. So if oh wait, this is a public hearing for this first one, but the other ones aren't. Okay, I apologize. Okay, so first up is the public hearing for amendment to the town code, chapter 13.1, article 3, boardwalk vendors and peddlers. Ms. Mitchell, will you give us a staff report on it before we
Madam-
open the public hearing?
Madam Vice Mayor and members of Town Council, this is an amendment to Article 3, Boardwalk Vendors and Peddlers Program. It expands the definition of boardwalk to include all municipal property. The definition of boardwalk currently is from Colonial Avenue to Hawthorne Street on the Francis Carn Boardwalk And again, it will include all municipal property that can be leased to both vendors and peddlers. In the ordinance, it includes a vendor fee for the year of $100 for non-food item, food items, and the ones that require health department certification, it's $175. For those vendors that would like to locate on holidays, July 4th, Labor Day, or other holidays, the one-time fee for each of those is $250. The town manager has discretion to approve or deny the permits. It prohibits amplified sound. Vendors are required to pick up the trash. They must have an insurance policy of $50,000 per occurrence. The vendors also are responsible for their utilities, electricity, water and sewer, trash disposal, and telephone service. The enforcement is, it's enforced by the town manager, but through the code compliance officer. And this also includes peddlers, permits for peddlers, which are $150 annual fee. And the town manager may revoke the permits, and there are exemptions from the fee for nonprofit, for charitable, civic, and religious organizations. And those last things that I expressed are currently in the ordinance. This is simply to change and expand the area from the boardwalk to all municipal property as stated before. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, we're gonna open it for public hearing and we'll have council discussion after that. Public hearing is open at 7:02 p.m. Is there anybody that'd like to speak?
Jay Jarvis, 225 Boundary. Been back a week and a half, and all I can say is congratulations on the vendor plan. We're 8 years overdue on this, and we did a good draft on it before. I've had a chance to screen it. Looks like it's got all the key points that was originally brought up. Could I take some time and if I have any detailed comments, forward them to the town manager?
You
Or is it
can,
too late for that?
this is the public hearing, so once we vote it here, it would need a
Okay.
separate public hearing.
Put in there.
For the first scan, it looks good.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chad. Is there any other comments for public hearing? No? Seeing none, I will close public hearing at 7:03 p.m. and open it for town council discussion. Let's start on this side this time.
It's just a reminder that, as Allison said, like, this is literally just changing from boardwalk to all municipal property, right?
Correct.
Not a single thing has changed other than that.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure everybody knows that we're not adding anything else or anything like that. That's literally all it is, to expand the programs for everybody.
Correct.
Yeah, just make sure.
Okay. Johnson?
Everything that you had gone over is what I had highlighted, and those were my concerns, and again, not having been there before, that this was a revision, basically. I'm going
Just to answer Jay's comment, I mean, we are always going to be improving or adjusting ordinances and resolutions, so we do welcome any thoughts or comments that you have that just would not come into this package. But I do want to point out one thing. Right now, we're talking about, and by the way, I am for this, but I want to point out that we're going to probably have to put some discretion on the town manager on some of these, because what we're opening up is the town roads, the town right-of-ways, and everything else. And they got a whole bunch of issues involved with them, separate from just being on Town Hill or on the boardwalk. So, without adding a lot to without adding anything to this ordinance, I believe that we're going to have to have the town manager come up with an outline of issues, if it's in the street or something, for safety and what have you, because you can't just discretionary, say, yeah, go ahead and do it, and then we run into all kinds of problems possibly with something being in the road. I don't know.
Just to be clear, this is the vendor program, so this is, when they pay this, they get a permanent spot for the year. And so I don't think the right-of-way or the street is really where would be a permissible location for this type of vendor. The street type location is more like a special event permit, where you have a one-time instance where somebody wants to set up at one time.
But it was, the way I was reading this is that it doesn't necessarily mean that like if somebody came in for holidays, they don't necessarily have an assigned space in all cases. I read this as if you get an annual permit and that you don't have an assigned space per se, but that you can come in and out on whatever weekend you
No,
may.
you do have
may
an
elect.
assigned space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, my question is how do we assign streets? That's kind of odd to me. I mean, right now we have a way of assigning locations on Town Hill and on the boardwalk and so forth. There's actually a numbered grid pattern they've used for years. If we're going to limit it to assigned spaces, I don't know how we assign.
I think only on municipal property, so it would be on Robin Road, it would be on.
That would be fine. My point
Yeah.
being, though, when you say all municipal properties, that includes all town-owned properties, which is street, dead ends, right-of-ways, everything.
Allison, did you find out more information about right-of-way stuff that pertains to this?
The town, well, there's two things. One is that the definition says those areas owned by the town of Colonial Beach, so, but it is up to the town on property, on right-of-way that is maintained by the town. So, except for those few streets that are maintained by VDOT, we do have the right. But that's aside from this. The question is whether those right-of-ways are actually owned by the town. And maybe you certainly have the ability, the way we advertise, to clarify that this does not include the right-of-way. If you'd like to do that, we can add that. You have the ability to do that.
I'd like to leave it as it is, because there are some dead-end situations of right-of-ways. Is that what you're?
Dead
would like
ends and
to
roads
leave it
are
as
all
is.
publicly, are all town-owned properties.
Mhm.
And that was my concern, was just that. But if this is only for specifically identified lease locations, then maybe that will give you enough parameter to either approve or deny. I just want to make sure that we've got what he needs is necessary to keep the public safe and not have a vendor just set up anywhere on the town street.
Right.
And we have to give them
Yeah.
permit.
No, if this gets messed up, it's the town manager put all the weight on you over there.
So may I have clarification that this, in some cases, this may include the right-of-way, depending on what's approved by the town manager? Is that correct?
I would leave it open
I
to.
think
Okay.
we're leaving it open, I just want to make sure he has the discretion to turn down and deny if needed.
It's understood, as to Mr. Sherby's point, that a significant amount of discretion, depending on what real estate or piece of property is being sold, will have to be, and obviously there will be some coordination with zoning and probably public works, if we get an unorthodox request. But I hope that we don't see those types of applications.
I think maybe the other ordinance that you were talking about what is it called now, coming
Oh, this, special event permit.
special event permit. I mean, I could see potentials where we have an organization come in and say, we want to close Hawthorne and have like some kind of street thing there. I
Right.
assume that would come under special event permits, correct?
Yeah.
And that would give them the leeway.
And
there.
you get a, land use permit with the town to shut the street down and to create access and all those things.
That's a
And
big
you
thing
pay
I was
more money
trying to-
for it.
Just
Yeah.
trying to make sure we had the differential between.
Yeah.
On
Good
the,
point.
on page 2, under 13.1-43B, under B, the last sentence says the town manager may deny an application based on the need for a variety of products and wares, comma, and to encourage the best use of town property. So it does give the town manager the ability to, for that discretion. Page 2.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Have a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Sherby?
Aye.
Ms. Robinson?
Aye.
Mr. I?
Aye.
Mr. Alden?
Aye.
And Chair votes, or Vice Mayor votes aye. Passes. All right, next up is the draft resolution 23-19, adopts a social media policy and a networking policy. And, Town Manager is gonna staff it?
Yes, ma'am. This is, in my opinion, long overdue. We are revisiting our HR holistically, and we've identified multiple gaps that we want to fill in the course of the next year. This one has come to light to where we, in the town, we have an absence in a social media networking policy. In today's world, it would behoove us to go ahead and put something in place, not only for our employees' protection, but also for our organization. And it really spells out and defines what can and cannot be put on social media. The language comes from VML, so it's very standard. It's basically been blessed off and approved by multiple legal eyes. I know this is the first opportunity council has had to look at it, but it's pretty straightforward. I've looked at it quite a bit, and I haven't found anything that is off with it. Obviously subject to council's recommendation and alterations, we can adjust the policy as needed. But at this point, it's pretty standard nomenclature for a 2019 world, pending any of your questions.
This is the first time I've got to look at it, so we'll have a time
Sure.
before to, but is there any place in it that you can give permission for them to promote the town and with permission?
Oh, absolutely. It has things put in place to where we can authorize. And of course, we have things like with the chief of police where he gives public statements, and myself, that we give public statements. I mean, that's,
Public Works wanted to show off all the cool street paving. I wouldn't want to discourage
we certainly wouldn't, but we probably would want to let we would probably want to let the leadership inside Public Works have the opportunity to wordsmith what is said, or at least be aware prior to any publication of something.
Yeah, you're right.
So.
I just want to make sure there was some way to possibly.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, it's all encompassing, it's a pretty good policy. But please, at your leisure, take a look at it, and let me know if there's anything that we need to tweak, any happy to add changes, and we'll adjust accordingly.
The only question I had is that this talks about email also.
Yes.
And email, and it doesn't exclude inter-town or inter-office email. Whereas really what we're trying to do is keep derogatory information out of public social media.
No, I do think we should also keep derogatory information from.
Well, my point is that I think that this takes away the potential for our employees to express their opinions or concerns about an issue without possibly being come down on by other people in the town. And the other concern I have is that, I was trying to find it in here, is it said somewhere, not just employees, but like commissions and.
I don't think it is concerns, I think it's bad mouthing, that's what it's going against. Concerns, if you have a concern about something, of course you email.
Well,
I don't think the way this is written is saying.
Well, the perception of what may be derogatory or bad mouthing from one person to another changes tremendously, and I can attest to that.
In such subject matter, there's a lot of subjectivity.
And I don't think the council's under this anyhow.
There's a lot of subjectivity. It's something, if we had a situation or instance occur, there's going to be subjectivity in whatever legal proceedings may follow it, just because it's the written word and it's loose. I think what it's intended for, and I understand Mr. Serby's question, is that there's a genteel and affable communication path. And I think it provides that. But let's say we had something that were to get out of hand, that would enter the realm of our legal purview. Then I think that it would be addressed at that point in time.
I think we need it, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm thinking out loud of some of the issues to make sure that we've thought through, and that we don't use this as the wrong tool against our people when they're expressing a concern or an opinion or, that's what I think is important, because it's not political.
I know it says it's from BML, but I mean, is this something that Mr. Morrell should look at? I mean, to make sure that it's not.
Ooh, better get that, what's her name?
The lady,
Yeah.
HR lady. And one question I had, though, is also goes from 2 to 3,
I
and
think
something's
it's
missing.
worth to make sure you're not.
That's what I told you, page 2, I told you that yesterday, top of page 3, there's something missing.
I have page 2.
But it kind of goes to the top of page 3, there's something missing, I mentioned that yesterday. And there are a few places in here that still talks about the company instead of the company.
I think someone like that should look at it to make sure that
That
it's
HR.
in line with how a town should word it
And just as a point, our HR legal representative did the work for BML, so she's probably very familiar with this particular policy, so it should be pretty quick. So I don't think we spend too much money on it, and she would also probably help us catch the companies and things that are obviously just designed for multiple users.
I mean, that was
In the
one of the
private
reasons I
sector.
thought it was
But we can certainly refine it and bring you a finished, polished product.
It sounds good to me, as long as Bill discovered it and everybody else. I saw it.
Yeah.
And I think the way we present it to the staff, she may have some insight on as well, because I think how we present it is going to put a lot of meaning in it.
Sure.
Well, it certainly provides protective mechanisms, not only for the organization, but also for the employee. It's designed.
I think the whole
noticed that.
concept is good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion on that?
Steve, I think the question you're talking about is in the packet, I think from everybody else's. It goes, if you look at the bottom, it goes from page 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a recess for 1, 2 again. I think the last 2, 1, 2 should be in front of the 3, 4.
Is that what it is?
I think you're right.
Because if you read it,
I kept trying to tie it together.
it goes from content must be relevant, add value, meet at least one of the specific goals, or,
I got
and
you.
then number 3, then it's purposes.
I think you're right, Chris.
That's where the
I just read it start to finish, and
Yeah.
something's not tied together.
The first 2 pages are bulletin points and the rest are just in paragraphs, so that's.
Thank you.
And one is the social media policy and the other is the social networking policy.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, my back is killing me, we're gonna move it forward. Next, I see no further discussion on that item. Okay. Draft resolution 2419, the adoption of the Commonwealth of Virginia 457 deferred compensation plan for Town of Colonial Beach employees. Mr. Robertson, please.
In the spirit of moving it forward, I will be very brief, because this one too is also very self-explanatory. As mentioned in our previous meeting, our current employment retirement plan only allows employees to contribute up to 4%. Most 401ks in the private sector can go legally up to $19,000 this year. We do have an aging staff that might want to take a benefit from being able to put those types of numbers into the retirement plan. So I reached out to Mrs. Oakes and she contacted me to see if there was an alternate plan the employee could engage in that would afford them the opportunity to go up to that 19,000 mark. Of note, interestingly enough, if you're over 50, legally you're allowed to go up, I believe it's in the $30,000 just called catch-up plan. And we have employees that fit that demographic and statistical mold. And I found in our HR and what we're giving our employees, we were left wanting with the ability to provide that. Mrs. Oakes on this plan, for the people who choose to enroll, the cost is roughly approximately $9 to the town per enrollee. who want to take advantage of this. So this is an easy win for our employees to offer them something that can make a huge difference later in life, with really no upfront investment and altering our overall cost of expenditure. Any more questions?
Any discussion?
Mr. Roberts, I'm sorry. Okay. You said, what was the cost from the town to the employee?
$9 from the town per employee.
Okay,
That was
per
it.
employee, okay, that's what I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have allergies, numbers is.
That was my only question, was who contributed to this?
And I will, one comment I would make is this could be, something that is, kind of impresses people or, we have a lot of people that are retired once and go back for a second career. And with this, they could dump literally the majority or all of any income that they made. If they came to work for the town as a second career, they could dump almost 100% of that in, whereas before it was just a minor percentage that you could do. So it's kind of a decent enticement for us for second career.
Okay.
Rather, when you retire, you can come back.
Right, Vicki said she's nodding and doing it. All right, is there any other discussion on this? I think, we expect this resolution to be at the
Yes, ma'am.
regular meeting. Okay. All right, tab B, 25-19, the town manager to execute an agreement. You can't leave yet. But,
I was already.
no.
The next one, we've discussed multiple times over the course of the last 12 months, the desire to have purchase cards for the employees to expedite the procurement process inside of the town staff's operations. All I need after much examination from Ms. Gomez and myself and Mr. Schaefer, all I need from council is direction to move forward with that, and then administratively I can pursue a rider onto the Fairfax, I believe it is, contract, which will allow us to be able to obtain purchase cards. So I just really need council to direct me to seek that.
Is there any discussion?
I think we've talked about it a number of times. It's just, the parameters are pretty much, I think you said that Gladys was going to really do a lot of that.
And to Mr. Servy's point, I'll elaborate. Right now, it would be giving me direction to be able to bring that piece of our procurement puzzle into town staff operations. Ms. Gomez and I, we're going to look at purchasing policy holistically once we have the P cards in our system, and then we're going to come back to you a month or two from now and make recommendations that we think will just bring fluidity to a procurement system that probably needs some overhaul.
So get the cards first, then we'll just the policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of
Together.
together. Yeah,
And
so,
you can't start using.
Pursue getting the cards.
right, so no, it's not like we'll have the cards implemented before we have a policy.
Okay.
So this just says, go ahead, move forward, with getting the key cards, put them in place. Part of the process of putting them in place is so you actually establish separate, there'll be a travel policy, there'll be a use of the key card policy, and then we can also revisit the procurement policy.
And I remember seeing the language of the prior policy. I'm assuming we're going to maybe find some BML or other standard to compare.
We have an example policy
Okay.
already, correct. So, we'll probably bring forth 3 policies to you. There'll be an overall, we'll revisit the procurement policy that was put in place in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Revisit that, and then we'll also refer to the fact that there is now a P card.
Right.
And there'll be procedures for that, and part of that P card policy, that it'll have, the form that the employee fills out and signs and says you're receiving this P card, and they will acknowledge that they've read, how they are supposed to use it and all of that. And then there'll also be a formal travel policy in terms of what can be, what kind of reimbursements the travel and all of that. We'll establish whether we do the per diem or actual, so we can also do that.
And just to piggyback on that, for the good of council and possibly some of the public, the way these P cards are designed, you have people that might have to go out maybe in public works and use them more frequently than somebody who does, twice a year travel to a conference or something like that. We have the ability with this current P card that we're wanting to pursue, we turn the card off. So let's say I issue Mr. Ryan a purchase card, I can move his card dormant, and then lo and behold, he has an emergency conference to go to, Mr. Schaefer can then make a phone call and activate that card because it's already in place. And then we can also set certain limits depending on what, activity Mr. Ryan might be engaged in. So there's a lot of flexibility with it, there's a lot of controls that are put in place over and above. And so I just didn't want the council to believe that we're giving out 30 cards with no controls in place. That's not the case. So the majority of those would not be turned on unless it was a specific activity that directed that activity to occur.
And that, you're still going to, it still follows purchasing policy override. Okay, that's the overriding umbrella. Okay, this is just something that facilitates that. And we will also be able to reduce the number of checks and buy ourselves an additional 30 days as well, because a lot of our vendors do allow for paying for invoices via credit card as well. So, so it's not, so again, these things will be tightly controlled. They can actually be physically controlled where the cards are maintained and if someone comes in and checks them out. Okay,
That's what I was
we could
wondering.
potentially do that. So I'm just saying is that we just needed yes, go ahead and move forward with that, and then, let's move forward with the agreement. And parallel with that is the establishment of policies. Okay?
Any other discussion?
That was I wanted to example when you gave one, so I appreciate that.
Okay, next up, introduction, and discussion, read the offer to purchase of right-of-way over in Club Point. You will see a packet of really long paper to it. And I am going to send Allison.
There is a citizen that has requested to purchase a portion of a right-of-way. If you turn to the plat, which is located on page 4 of the packet that's on your desks, then you will see a plat, and you can see that there are several lots with the alley that is between these lots. This citizen owns the area of Lot 14 and Lot 9. Lot 9 is a landlocked piece of property, piece of waterfront property. It fronts on the waterfront is Ware Pond. The applicant would like to purchase from Lot 9 and Lot 14 all the way back to Ware Pond. It would continue to allow the owners of Lot 10, 11, 12, and 13 to access property through the alley. The applicant has requested that they purchase this portion that they then will deed the portion that is adjacent to Lot 15, that portion of the alley to the owner of Lot 15, and then they can consolidate lots 9 and 14 together, which will enable them to build an accessory structure on that lot consolidation. So if there's any questions, then I'd be happy to answer them. Oh, and I took the opportunity,
Just the
just the end. I took the opportunity to prepare the legal ad, multitask while you were talking with the schools. And so that is ready now, and I have the legal ad, I have it set for June 5th, which is your next work session. And if that's okay, then I will continue to move that forward and get the town attorney to okay the legal ad, and then town clerk will send it to the newspaper. They have requested to purchase it for $10,800. There is an appraisal that is attached to the request. The appraisal was done by Robert Lynch. And that information is in the packet that you received.
So the public hearing will be on June 5th.
If okay with council, yes.
Any discussion? Okay, so we're good? Do you have anything? Okay. All right.
Rob, do we have any utilities running in that? Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm looking at this plat, I'm seeing it looks like a sewer, I'm not sure. Is that a sewer running on the bottom end of lot 10 and 11 there? Will it turn up into lot 9?
Maybe.
It looks like a sewer to me. Which is not an issue if we, because it's right now, because it looks like there's a sewer service to lot 9. If that's the case and the lot's being combined with lot 14, then that service can be terminated because we can only run one residential sewer to a lot. And it's already got one to lot 14, correct?
That would be my assumption. He would terminate that.
Yeah, so that's my only thing, is to make sure that we don't need an easement down that alley beyond,
Beyond the existing
10
alley
and
that we're
13,
using.
right, yeah.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, obviously, once it's consolidated, lot 9 is no longer its own individual lot, and
So single services.
Yep. The whole thing will be mirrored off the same
And that,
water
and
bin.
they should understand that too, if there's any, building built back here, that the water and sewer actually has to come off of the primary structure.
Right.
And that they cannot tie into the sewer on the alley, because that would be a secondary connection. Allison, do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that. Actually, there's a zoning ordinance that requires that all those connections, you only have one single connection.
For a lot.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that this individual knows the limitations, that we can't tie into that. And it will all be zoned as regular residential.
I don't believe that's an existing sewer.
I
think they
can't
were-
read it on this
I think
little.
I think they were proposing.
I don't know, I mean, I'm looking at something tied into the main up underneath Wakefield.
Yeah. Of course, I can't see this very well, but it seems there was some discussion some time back about wanting to run sewer service too.
If it remained its own lot.
But then it could be an auxiliary structure.
Right.
It would have to be a primary structure. And it can't be because it's not conforming, because it doesn't have 50 foot of frontage.
Yeah, what I'm saying is,
The whole point
again, I
is
can't
to
see
make
very well. It
this
looks like one
somehow
line.
into a legal function.
And the best way to do it is make it one big lot. But I just want to make sure they understand that we're saying
I agree with
service is
you.
one lot.
Yeah, you would have to come off of Riverview Circle.
Well,
Right.
they already have service there on their existing lot 14. They just need to know that if anything they build there's got to serve from their existing services.
If they want sewer to it.
Yeah, and looking at this, I'm not sure what the grade is there. They may end up having to put a pump in over there, and put a bathroom in that garage.
Good change.
Fine with me. No, obviously there's no big second sewer connection to the lot. Question?
But anyway, I think
That's a good point.
it's a good thing to get rid of it and move it. As long as there's no other utilities in there, I hate to find out after the fact we had an easement.
We'd have to check. I'd want to double check.
Well, it's not a public hearing until June.
I know, but we need to make sure we get this stuff.
But, you know, if they have a full-size set of drawings someplace, I bet you that one is.
I have it in my office.
Good.
Roger, any comments?
Which means that I can literally go to the ticket station.
Okay. No,
If it doesn't affect
no, not even close, no.
I do have one question. This is somewhat on topic, but not. Where
Different-
pond, is
different
that
tax map.
under the Chesapeake Bay setbacks or not because it's a tributary?
Right, I have heard that it is not. At first, I was sure that it would be, but I was told it is not. And then my understanding is that there is a barrier between Ware Pond.
There it is.
There
it
it
is.
is.
It's a freshwater
So-
pond, but I do know that upstream, we have wetlands that feed that are considered under,
And those
Right.
weren't perennial streams though. They were never considered perennial streams. I've seen.
There is documentation of that exists, not me, because I don't own any property over there, but from what I've heard, the property owners over there have documentation.
I just didn't know
Where-
whether or not it was.
That
like the
it's
coast.
not a perennial stream and that it's not a, just what
Right.
they add.
That's what I heard.
But
That's-
there is wetland, considered wetland upland of that feeds into this.
I will double check with the EQ if the,
You know, where Santa Maria does that, or not Santa Maria, what's the Cedars?
Cedar?
Does that big dip?
Yeah, this,
That one side of
there's
Cedar?
stormwater that runs
Well,
right there.
they consider that wetland now because it's vegetated the way it's.
if it's right, if it's contiguous to the
this
wetland,
block
that might
number?
have changed
Of
it.
a different block number.
So I will double check, because that's really important.
That's just a
Just like
different
the
block number.
ravine
so
behind
the numbers
12th
are
Street,
weird.
that is considered a tributary now, even though,
You know that?
yeah, and that was nothing but a drainage ravine, but it's, because of the way it's changed and evolved over the years, it is now under DEQ.
I don't know how long ago they made this determination, but if it was prior to when they decided to add more to what they considered RPA, then,
Again, I just would hate the potential buyer here to buy something and not be able to utilize it for what he wants because they didn't realize that there were certain issues that may prohibit him from holding on. Not that it's our responsibility to point that out, but.
well, no, but yes, it's better now than when he comes for his building permit trying to construct. So, okay, I will double check that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? No. Seeing none, I'll move to status items. My favorite subject. There's so many people in the audience up for it too. It's too bad. All right, is the pedestrian plaza update.
Pedestrian Plaza, as you may be aware, is in the bid documents are in VDOT's hands at this time for review. They were missing two documents that they needed to provide, at least two. And that was an EQ 103 and an EQ 200, I believe, having to do with environmental. Well, they ended up needing, in order to provide those to us, they needed the Army Corps of Engineers permit, which the VMRC was taken care of, so we ended up dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers because they had told the VDOT that he was going to be deferred on 5 other projects, priority projects. However, managed to get it turned around, so we got that permit in place. Now, then subsequently today, I got the EQ 103 and the EQ 200. So we are closing in. Keep in mind that it has to be advertised for one day.
So the goal in our meeting was to have it advertised by May, starting the advertisement by May 10th. That's still
That is
on.
the intent, however, we're looking at, and I'm not sure that VDOT is fully in with it. Because I'm noticing that there's some review that has to go on for 20 days prior
Up to,
to advertise.
but she said maybe it wouldn't take that
Yes. So, yeah, but I still am worried, so I was worried, so I made a call to Jerry today.
long.
And regarding the other funds that must be utilized. And his latest is, it sounds like we're making significant progress and that will be taken under consideration.
I'm not gonna put my money on that.
I'm not either, but we will continue to work as hard as we can to do. Okay?
I will
Try as hard as
continue
I
to-
can.
No, I appreciate this, this is really like, is almost, it's almost
close.
there,
So,
so close, so.
I did one other thing that Jerry asked about. Now, we had by the way, Leslie's been a big help with us.
Great,
Okay, so she's been able to go off on certain tangents while I'm working something else. So that has been quite helpful. We have, there was an error in the OPE, OPC, Engineers Pending Probable Cause, where something was double counted. She was reviewing all the documents, she was able to locate that. So it is low. So that gives us a little more money at the end, hopefully, assuming he comes in for the procurement of the benches and the other improvements that we would certainly want in there.
yeah,
And that there's, I did ask a question as far as construction. If we are utilizing and installing some other things within the project area, if there were to be some delay in actually digging, being on the ground by June 30th, if that would constitute construction.
It's not
The
related to the
installation.
contract.
It is the DHCD's contract.
Hey, I wouldn't-
But that was who I was discussing it with. He said, probably better wait. So, but that's for the issue.
okay.
I've got, we need to get out and market and sell this to the industry. We need to get out there and start identifying bidders for this job now. And we're not gonna get
We've already
Let me finish.
started that.
Because there's a lot of different, this is a revitalization thing, it's got DBE, it's got all kinds of requirements that have to be met, so on and so forth. And those messy jobs with that administrative paperwork are not jobs that are at the top of bidders' bid lists when they're out there chasing work. And we need to get out and sell this. I mean, we've sent out drawings to 4 people on the pier bid and we got 1. And we cannot afford to have less than 3 bids on this thing because we've got to get some competitive numbers. And there's got to be activity out there where people think that they're actually bidding against them.
I agree, that was discussed with
Really?
DHD, with the town manager, on getting ahead of this and identifying people and getting in contact with them ahead of schedule.
And the same thing with the subs, encouraging our local subs to find the general contractors that are going to bid this job, because that's where they're going to get their DVD and
There are
local
specific
involvement.
requirements that this has to be VDOT pre-qualified.
Yeah,
Specific requirements, so our solicitations should certainly, we don't want anybody chasing VDOT pre-qualification. So we hopefully be able to have some, and DDOT certainly is aware and has pre-qualified. We would be able to solicit by, we would have to solicit publicly, and then also it is still allowed to solicit
Get on.
individuals.
Yeah, and I mean,
You know, and hope, you know, we know some that are pre-qualified already. We have the one that is Safe Routes to School.
this is kind of a hodgepodge of stuff, so it's not gonna be something that it fits everybody's motive. You're not gonna get a paver bid the whole thing, you're not gonna get a curb and gutter guy who bids the whole job. So we
Most
gotta
of-
get out
most of the
sell this
projects
job,
is
I'm
concrete.
concerned.
Yeah, majority of it's concrete.
Most
I
of them.
understand that, but it's not VDOT concrete per se.
Some CG6 and some is, and actually it's concrete roadway, turn downs.
But if we don't get enough bids, and we had to go back out, we lose the timetable.
Oh, I agree
And we
wholeheartedly.
gotta be covered.
Well, that's why this May 10th date is so crucial
That's why
because,
we are working diligently to get them.
yes, and that the town manager will be very aware and involved so that if May 11th shows up, it doesn't drop off the table.
And we need to follow up and make sure we got bidders confirmed, and the bid date doesn't show up on first place.
Okay, any other questions, updates on that? Nope. Budget update, Ms. Gomez?
Our timeline, you know, got pushed back by a meeting. So just want to remind you that we have planned to, have the budget, you know, approved May 15th. And we need to advertise it, we have a public hearing, and then that has to go in, gotta be out for a week before, and then, minimum is 7 days, right? After that public hearing, the earliest we can approve that budget. So I don't have any changes. I'm saying I don't have any changes to what was previously presented. If there's going to be any changes, we need to make sure that that gets done sooner rather than later, because we have to advertise with the amount that we move the budget, and that deficits that we get back to them no later than May 7th, which is next Tuesday, in order to be added here May 8th, which is the week before the next 15th meeting.
I had a concern. Just on the way that we approach public works and the way I talked to Quinn about a number of things is we cut, at least in public works, we cut 100% of the contingency out of, other than the required contingency under water and sewer, all the other contingencies have been taken out. And basically, so that either the town manager or the town council could determine the, any contingency that needs to be carried on the budget. Now, I don't know what the other departments did. You made it sound like that's what we did across the board, but my point being is that I think we've got to discuss whether or not we carry any contingency funds for mold removal, 50 grand, and this or that, because we have stripped everything out, and I'm not advocating for it, but we did say that when we increased the taxes, that it was to also build some contingency. And right now, the budget that we have is not carrying contingency unless something's different from what I understand.
Okay, well, the other thing that we need to circle on is that that 10 cent increase really was just to make that, because we had the VPSA debt, and there was a recognition early on that it required 6 cents, and only 2 cents got done. So that's the 6 cents, and then there's an additional on the E911 tower. There was an additional 100, I think it was 100 and something, 110 or 120 cents, and then there was an additional 10 cents, and then that town's portion, that the town still has to pay a percentage of the Westmoreland debt portion for the Inland Running Power. So that basically hook up.
Oh, I realize that. My
And
point is
right
that.
now, and the way we projected revenues, and then when we came up with the expenditures, there is no contingency in
That's
that.
my point.
We would have to, if we would, if you instruct us to add contingencies, we would have to project additional revenue.
Or go back and cut.
Or go, right, or cut from existing line items and then build a contingency from that.
But understand, a lot of what Gladys said took place after we raised the taxes. And we had assumed that we were gonna get one thing out of the taxes, but then we had some surprises that ate it up and have continued to eat it up. So my point being is that we had anticipated creating a 2-cent, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the way it was sold in public. We created 2-cent contingency or whatever. And I just want everybody to realize right now, and thank you for confirming that there is nothing. No discretionary funds.
Can the E911 debt service be renegotiated?
That's something that we could probably discuss in closed session, which I'm prepared to do tonight.
I mean, there's some potential issues, but we can't count them, so we can't budget yet.
And I would like to supplement the conversation with, and Mr. Sherby's absolutely right, as well as Ms. Gomez, that there was no way based off current revenue projections. We have to look at last year. Last year was not favorable because of the weather. We all understand that, we got it. We don't anticipate that this year, but we can't budget based off of hopes of good weather. So we do expect a good windfall versus a negative windfall. We just can't come to council and say this is a true increase in revenue. It wouldn't be ethical the right way to go about budgeting. The other thing that I'd like to point out now is that we talked to Mr. Sherby at length about is that we recognize that when we start a budget, we do a budget this time of year, that within 12 months things happen and things do change and things are going to morph. It's a fluid. Financial operations inside of an entity is fluid. So what I would like to do is prepare for council things that we believe that could be on the horizon for this next 12 months for consideration. So keeping in the back of our mind, the budget's almost like a snapshot of what we're able to see now, understanding that that's a moving target, and that these are things, not necessarily like a CIP, but I don't really have anything else to liken it to.
Sure.
It's unexpected contingency, things that we think that could crop up that we would like to forecast that they're on schedule to occur in some form or fashion.
Revenue and expenditure wise.
Well, revenue and expenditure wise. I'll give you a case in point. I think it's reasonable to believe that if weather plays well with us this year, that we might see a 5% increase in sales.
I think you and I roughed out like $140,000 potential increase in revenue.
Potential. And we have a designated need already in place for those monies. And I can show you that over time. And I owe that to council, but I want to keep that also in mind. It's separate in the budget, but it should be noted with the budget.
Well, that's my point, and we need to make the decision, in my opinion, we need to make a conscious decision whether or not we feel we need to carry any contingency at this point going forward. I can honestly say in the last 2.5 years that I've been on council, we have always gone to a council fund or a town manager's fund or some contingency that was built into public works, have been going after to pay for surprises. Well, we don't have any of that anymore at this point, in this current budget.
Yeah, I've seen mine.
And I just want to make sure everybody understands that we cut out a lot of things that we're going to have to look at CIP with. That are CIP issues, that's why we took them.
I still want to meet with you on the other half of it. Most of the time. Anybody else? The council priority list is grant opportunities, that just stays on here so we, oh, sorry, yes, I had just started checking things. Real estate broker, I'll give an update. This is sort of pending that we were gonna re-advertise for broker and sort of update the advertisement to be a little bit more broad and to, and as the admin liaison, I said I would work with them on that and
We're scheduled to meet with the vice mayor next Friday, as well as I was able to give her the historic RFP that we did, and also the response to the RFP.
I did see that.
So she's able to have some time to digest for our Friday meeting, so we can start drafting and crafting up what the next edition looks like.
And the DHCD seminar on, small developers is May 16th or 17th. 16th, and I will be attending that along with a member of Downtown Colonial Beach, Mr. Bell. I don't know his first name. Jim Bell. And so they want to learn about the program too, and I'm hoping that we can take the stuff from that seminar and do a little mini seminar here in town for all of the local people here. So if Jim and I can bring that seminar back and not to pay for those speakers to come in here, that would be good. And so it's still on track and moving forward, but I apologize for that's not on the list. It's still a status. Right, next up is council priority list and grant opportunities, which we still just keep in here so that we don't forget that it exists. Any questions on that? All right, citizen input, I will open citizen input at 7:57, and I have one person signed up so far, Mr. Jay Jarvis, but I think he's left already. I've talked him out of the room. So, Trish, would you like to come up?
Well, certainly been different. Congratulate all of you. Sounded pretty good. A little concerned about some things. Anyway, I decided after many years to come off of 12th Street, and things have been happening that lots of people are talking about. And in this town, there's always misinformation. If you don't understand it, you make it up, and blah, blah, blah. So, because it affects all of us, and it is the impending meters and the ad and article that Susie wrote and Marcy Quinn was talking about. So I know the meters are coming. I understand that for most municipalities, it's a moneymaker, and some of that's because you have a captive user, and it's not in competition with, go to somebody else. But I think I'd like to have, and I know that you don't, or I understand now that you don't really give too much of a back and forth communication. So I've tried to make this a question. I don't know if there are any answers, but just by what I'm asking, maybe I can meet with somebody or talk with somebody. But part of that is that we have some of these things that go on in town because I feel there's a lack of transparency between the council and maybe town people. Of course, it's very hard to be transparent or meet with everybody at the same time. And that creates some problems. I was back with transparency and communication. I was impressed with Mr. Turner and his presentation about the school. It's come a long way. There was half a dozen questions I had, but it was nice to see that somebody from the school was actually standing there talking to you about real things and real communication, and there wasn't as much problem as it used to be. So, and he seemed to present things that were going on with the school, the students, and things like that. I still had questions that I can find out later and things like that. But I was impressed with that, and I think it's really great that we move ahead and with communications and with a relationship with the school. Anyway, be that as it may, I'll try to make this as quickly as I can. I know you're a little hard, but let me see if I understand all this. So we're going to get meters. I know that's coming, and that's a good thing. I know that it went back to at some point, I'm not sure which federal agency decided that, what do you mean you have no meters? And then the town said, we don't have any money. And so and the agriculture department, if I have my memory serves me correctly, they came and said, we're gonna give you a grant. I don't know what the grant was like, but here it is, or whatever but as usual, whenever you get the government giving you some money, there's all these other regulations that come with it, and actually the government gave us the money for the sewer treatment plant, and so they get to say what we do. So, be that as it may, I wanted to ask about the 20% that you're requesting. And my question is that we have a 20% contingency fund in water, and who's that ordered by?
Ms. King, you're at your 3-minute mark, and I do follow these rules very strictly, and when I run this meeting, I want you to get answers to all of your questions. If you can write them down and please submit them to us or to the town manager, I am sure that all of those questions can be answered, and everything you've talked about to this point has been talked about openly in the public meetings.
In the
So,
public meeting, right?
yeah.
And to get an answer for the public, we would all have to come here one first.
We have talked about all of those issues publicly in these meetings consistently twice a month. But yes, please just submit your question to the town manager and he will respond to you. And if he doesn't, make sure to submit it to the rest. No, I'm just kidding. No, submit it to everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, town manager,
Okay.
send it to the town manager, we don't get a response.
Can we have a personal
I let
meeting,
your
or do I have
mouth
to?
up from nothing happens to talk to you about something.
Whatever. Can I have a personal meeting with you, face to face? I don't have to email back and forth and get all that. Okay, well, that doesn't answer my problem with all the town getting the right information, to the right people.
I agree, but this is the Robert's Rules of Order forum, and we try to create civility and stick to the rules, because our meetings are already 2 hours long, and we haven't gone into closed session yet. But I want all of the answers that you want to have will be answered.
Okay,
Thank you.
Ken, for coming.
well, okay.
Is there any other citizen input at this time?
Can y'all hear me if I sit here?
State your name and your address.
All right, I'm speaking for myself, not the paper. Susie Peaches Smith, 301 Monroe Bay Avenue. I was wanting to ask for if you have an update on the Torrey Smith Rec Park, and if you have an update on the no wake signs, because I've spoken to several agencies, and according to the Virginia agencies, they're not enforcing.
Yeah, we did do, yeah. I am also going to refer that you submit those questions to the town manager for response, and we'll personally ask that they get in the town manager updates for our regular meeting, at the very least, so that everybody can hear those updates. I think those are both definitely should be on our agenda for the next meeting. Thank you. Is that it?
That was it, I just had this couple questions.
All right. Any other citizen input at this time? No? Seeing none, I'll close citizen input at 8:04 p.m. Next is to go into a closed meeting. Is there a motion to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3 to discuss the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body?
So moved.
Roll call vote.
All right.
Aye.